Hi guys, and thank you for joining me. Let's jump into創世記1章11節。神はまた言われた。地は青草と種を持つ草と、種類に従って種のある実を結ぶ果樹とを地の上に生えさせよ。そのようになった。解説。We're just going to look at the red part here, and I've kind of broken the sentence into several parts, as you can see. We are getting into some territory where the order of the sentence in Japanese is drastically different from the order of the resulting English translation. And so I really want to stress that as early as you guys can, you should be trying to embody the meaning of the words that you're dealing with rather than translating them to English in your head. So, for example, if you have chi, which you know means the earth, right? You want to embody the meaning of the earth or ground or land in your system without thinking too much about the English equivalent. Does that make sense? So chi, you listen to it several times, you repeat it several times. Anytime you interact with chi, you want to always picture the earth or the land. And you want to do that with as much Japanese as you possibly can. So the best way to do that is to start with words, make sure you embody words. Then you expand out to phrases, make sure you embody phrases. And then the more you're able to do that, the easier it's going to be to read and comprehend sentences. Before we jump into the content here, I do want to say that because this is such a difficult sentence, I thought I'd do kind of a fun little campaign here. So what I'm going to do is if you guys are able to recite this with your eyes closed at one of my lesson consultations, which are free, by the way, I will give you 25% off your first month of Japanese lessons with me, regardless of how many lessons you take. Okay, 25% off. It's a pretty big savings. So definitely do your best to memorize this and recite it in the consultation with your eyes closed. If you do a good job, 25% off your first month of lessons. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into the breakdown here. Okay, so we have chi no ue ni. And you already know these words, chi no ue ni. We've looked at all of these words so far in the course. But I wanted to show you what's going on with the accent here. Okay? So the first part, chi no, is as you might expect. And then we have ue ni, ue ni. Okay, so we have two separate accent units here. Chi no ue ni, chi no ue ni. This means upon the earth. I want to show you what's actually going on with the accent in this case. So I'm going to jump to a website here that's very useful. And I will put this link in the video description as well. Okay, so this is actually what's going on. By the way, to use the website, you just type in the sentence or phrase or word that you want to analyze. You can change this to English if you want. And then you click the analyze button here, and it's going to give you this nice little graph, accent graph. It's accurate most of the time, I would say. There are sometimes it makes little mistakes, but I think for most of you, if you're doing short phrases and words, it's very, very useful. So this is what's actually going on with the accent. Okay, so we start high, chi no, chi no. You can basically ignore the upward slope at the beginning. This is just literally what happens to your voice when you try to say something that's higher than your neutral pitch. So if you listen, chi starts a little high. Chi no, chi I. I'm up here in this area, right? That's higher than my neutral pitch, right? So the voice actually eases into that, which is what's going on at the beginning, but you can kind of ignore that for now. Chi no ue ni, chi no ue ni. Okay, so chi no, we come down with chi no, and then ue ni is kind of treated as its own accent unit. Okay, so the accent actually restarts with ue, and it goes back up as we would expect, and then because it's final high pitch accent, it comes down before ni, chi no ue ni. But as you can see, the first slope is higher than the second one. Okay, so you see this in Japanese sentences all the time where you have a slight downward contour overall. I'll give you one more example of this phenomenon. Okay, so let's do a slightly longer sentence. So, shizuka na umi ga kirei. Oops, kirei. Let's go with that. Let's just make it like desu ne, kirei desu ne, something like that. Okay. All right, now we'll see this phenomenon again. So the exact same thing. So these are all initial high-pitched words. Shizuka, quiet. Umi, sea. Kirei, beautiful. Okay, these are all initial high-pitched words. So shizuka na. Okay, that's the first unit of accent. And then we go up, but not up as high as we were in the beginning. Umi ga. Okay, exact same thing. We're going back up to start a new accent unit, but not as high as we were before that or in the beginning. 綺麗ですね. Okay, so you have this downward contour to the sentence overall. This is sometimes referred to as terracing because of the appearance that results. 静かな海が綺麗ですね. Of course, native speakers and advanced Japanese speakers who have been learning Japanese for a long time do this subconsciously, but I do think it's very, very helpful when you're starting out to just be aware that this is going on in sentences. Okay, back to the Bible verse. So we have 地の上に upon the earth. Then we have 生えさせよ. Okay, cause to sprout. This is the imperative form as we've seen before. This comes from 生えさせる, which is the causative form of 生える. Okay, which is an ichidan verb that means to grow, to sprout, etc. So, 生える, you could say like 草が生える. The grass grows. That's happening on its own, right? But 生えさせる, being causative means that you're saying to make something grow, to make 草を生えさせる, to make grass grow. And then we put that in the imperative form, 生えさせよ, and it means cause to make grow or cause to sprout, etc. Okay, so that gives us let the earth cause to sprout something something upon the earth. We're going to look at that something something in the next section. Okay, next we'll be looking at this part here. 青草と種を持つ草と. Okay, so we're just going to learn some nouns here. So we start here with 青草, which is green plants. This is composed of the word 青, which is blue, and 草, which is grass. And you might be thinking, well, why is it blue grass? That's weird. That's a kind of music, isn't it? Actually, throughout the years, Japanese has used 青 to refer to the color of greenery, of plants. And that might be confusing to you, but you have to keep in mind that people divide colors differently in different languages. And also, you have to keep in mind that the modern world is full of very vibrant, clear colors. Like, you can have like a green t-shirt or a blue t-shirt, and they can be very distinct. But if you imagine the natural world with many, many different types of plants and grass and stuff, you can see how blue could kind of refer to a wider spectrum of colors. So they use 青 to refer to the greenery, the green color of plants in many cases. 青信号 is a green traffic light, but as you can see, they have retained this more classic traditional meaning of 青 here as well. Midori is the more modern word that means green. And you do hear this now to refer to greenery as well. So you'll hear people talk about the midori of the forest or whatever. And so there is a lot of overlap now, but it is very interesting to know and important to note actually that 青 can refer to the color of plants as well. So that's what we have here. Okay, and then we have the word 草. As I mentioned before, this just means grass. Okay, next we have 種を持つ草, grass that has seed. Okay, 種を持つ草. Okay, so this is also a very important thing to be able to understand here. 種 means a seed, 持つ means to have, to carry, etc. What I want you to see here is that we've seen this before a little bit, but I do want to touch on this again. 種を持つ is a verbal phrase. It means to have a seed. And then we just literally attach that right onto 草. We don't need a relative pronoun like we would use in English. There's no such thing in Japanese. You literally just take the verbal phrase and you attach it directly onto a noun and you get grass that has seed. 種を持つ草. So it's a very sleek, simple system. Okay, so 青草と種を持つ草と. This gives us green plants and grass that has seed. Okay, so this is one of the things that's going to be sprouting on the earth. All right, let's look at the rest of the verse here. 種類に従って種のある実を結ぶ果樹と。種類に従って種のある実を結ぶ果樹と。And fruit trees that bear fruit in which there is seed according to their kinds. This is a difficult sentence in any language. It's difficult in the Hebrew, it's a little bit weird, awkward in English, and it's difficult in Japanese as well. So just bear with me. So let's look at the first part here. 種類に従って according to their kinds. Okay, so we start with 種類, which means a kind. And as I think you probably know, Japanese does not have plural forms of nouns. So, I mean, there are several exceptions, but in general, it does not have plural forms of nouns. So, 種類 means a kind. It can mean kinds as well. 種類に従って according to. 従って according to. This uses に, and you just attach this to whatever, and it can be according to. Okay, so 種類に従って according to their kinds. This is the te form of a verb. I'm not going to break it down in this case because I think it's good to just learn this as a phrase. 種類に従って according to their kinds. Alright, next we have 種のある実を結ぶ果樹。種のある実 is fruit in which there is seed. This is similar to what we looked at up above, where you're taking a verbal phrase and you're appending it to a noun to give us what's considered a relative clause in English. Okay, so fruit in which there's seed. What we see here is 種がある being kind of what you would expect. There is seed. And then when we attach that to a noun, we can actually change the が to a の。種のある noun. Okay, this is a very, very common change that you see in Japanese. I have touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to kind of really spell it out for you here. Okay, so 種がある is there is seed. 種のある実 fruit in which there is seed, or something noun in which there is seed. Okay, so 実 means fruit. If you go to your supermarket and you want fruit, don't ask for 実, ask for 果物, 果物. Okay, so this is what's more commonly used in speech and everyday life. Okay, and then we have 実を結ぶ, which means to bear fruit. Okay, 結ぶ is to bear. It also means to tie, but in this case, it's totally unrelated to that, of course. It just means to bear fruit as a phrase. Okay, and then finally down at the bottom, we have 果樹, which is a fruit tree. Okay, so combining that all together, we have 種類に従って種のある実を結ぶ果樹と and fruit trees that bear fruit in which there is seed according to their kinds. This is a pretty tricky phrase, so this is where it really helps to work on the embodiment stuff that I talked about before. Okay, so putting everything together, let's see what we get with the translation here. So, 神はまた言われた。地は青草と種を持つ草と、種類に従って種のある実を結ぶ果樹とを地の上に生えさせよ。そのようになった。Then God said, Let the earth cause to sprout green plants, grass that has seed, and fruit trees that bear fruit in which there is seed, according to their kinds, upon the earth, and it was so. Now let's just look at the verse itself without any of the English there. See if you can kind of feel the meaning. If you're not able to do that yet, go through and really just practice each part of this, and I think you will slowly acquire that ability. Okay, so here we go, final time. 創世記1章11節。神はまた言われた。地は青草と種を持つ草と、種類に従って種のある実を結ぶ果樹とを地の上に生えさせよう。そのようになった。Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.